Hey, Aiden.
Hey, Chris.
Good to see you.
How are you? I'm good.
Doing all right. Get dinner yet?
Yeah, I just ate. I got my taste back, Chris.
Oh, you did?
Yep.
Yeah. You really think someone's gonna drive you in their car if you're saying you're gonna strep test?
I know. But yeah.
Yourself?
Okay. Talk to you later, Chris.
No, don't go. Wait, so Aiden. Aiden.
What, Chris? There's like 8 people in the meeting now.
What if we could cut off like more people joining the meeting, and then we just declared ourselves speakers?
Yeah, good idea.
Right out.
Okay, goodbye, Chris.
Hello, everyone. I hope you had a great break. We're going to wait 5 minutes just to let everyone get into the meeting. So we'll get started officially at like around 6:35. So I'll call to order then. Just wanted to give everyone a heads up. Feel free to unmute yourself, say hello if you want. It's up to you all. Just again, for those who have joined since I said it, we're going to wait a couple more minutes just to make sure everyone's here. So we'll start at around 6:35. You're welcome to unmute and say hello if you'd like.
Hello.
Hello.
How are you, Irene?
I'm good. How are you, Ben?
I'm good. I'm still awaiting my messenger pigeon.
Oh, yeah. Well, no one's gonna know what you're talking about. You sound a little bit crazy.
I know, but it's fun. Hopefully someone is confused enough and asks, and we get a nice lively conversation going.
Sure, because you don't have a chat, so they'll have to unmute, which is
What do you mean by
scary.
messenger pigeon?
There we go. Ben, do you want to explain? It's actually not that big of a deal.
Yeah. So Irene sent out, I think it was in the group me, a message saying if you want to be on the internal list, send me your email. And so I texted Irene, but I texted her the wrong email. And because my phone did a thing. Anyway, and then I texted her the right one, and then I'm like, but whatever you want to do, just send me a messenger pigeon. And so now she's going to send me a messenger pigeon. I'm going to name him Jeffrey, and I am going to pamper him.
So that's what happens behind the scenes of USG.
Yes.
So how is everyone's week going? You can unmute and just talk, like as if we're in person and we're all real people.
I have a question about something Ben just said.
Yes.
Now, if Irene buys a messenger pigeon and sends it to you, right? You name it Jeffrey and pamper it. Does that not constitute theft of Irene's messenger pigeon? I just feel like she's sending you a message and you're rewarding her with theft.
I mean, I guess you're right. Do messenger pigeons? I thought that messenger pigeons were always like one-way delivery devices. Like they were trained to go back somewhere, but you couldn't like really send a messenger pigeon back and forth. I thought that,
How do you even train it though? How do you train it to begin with?
That's the best point.
That's a really good question. Damani, you bring up an interesting legal point. I'd be interested to get a lawyer in here and tell me whether.
Well, I think it's like in Harry Potter where you have your owl, you send your owl, it's still your owl. So in this specific case, it's more like a gift situation, but in general, it would be theft.
But the owls are smart, right? Messenger pigeons are.
Wait, you bring up Harry Potter. Okay, how do the owls get through like the Fidelius charm in that case? Right?
Reminds me because it's been a long time.
Okay, like let's say there's a secret keeper for like a certain area or like wherever the person is, and you send an owl to that person. Does it get through the charm and go to the person, or what happens in that case?
Lakita, you know what I think?
Confused and just flies in circles.
It never comes back to the sender then in that case, because it needs to send it.
Yeah, I think that's the equivalent of when the Postal Service loses the package.
I think that this is definitely a line of questioning to continue at a caucus or at a CSI meeting for sure.
Lakita, you know what I think though?
So be sure to look into this then.
I think, Lakita, that you should be at the Harry Potter trivia tomorrow.
I will be there. I saw that and I was like, my heart goes out to it.
All right, everyone. We're gonna call this meeting to open at 6:35 p.m. Attendance will be taken based off of a vote later on in the meeting, so just be sure to vote in all the. Actually, it records whether or not you vote. So, one way or another, we are going to have everyone who's in the meeting at the time of the vote. If you leave before the vote, please send me an email. Yeah. So we call to open at 6:35. Attendance will be taken later, as I said. Reports. Please view the reports at your own leisure and be sure to reach out to any of the people there if you have questions about what's being worked on. I encourage you all to look into it because our chairs are working on some great stuff and everyone in there has a couple of great plans going on. So be sure to look into that and follow up with whatever interests you. We'll now move into voting items. So our first voting item is an approval of the minutes. This is from our last meeting in December. And we've entered into that. Is there any discussion on the previous meeting's minutes? I can pull those up just so that people can see them. All right. Feel free to, ooh, actually, I forgot how to do this. Let me pull up participants so I can see who's raised their hands. All right. With no raised hands, we're gonna move to pass this by unanimous consent because it's the minutes. So is there any opposition to passing these minutes by unanimous consent? Please object now by either unmuting yourself and saying so or by raising your hand. With no objections, we have approved the previous week's minutes. We will now move on to the confirmation of the Elections Oversight Commissioner. And with that, I will yield to the Chief Justice to present his nomination.
Thanks, Luis. Good evening, everyone. So together, the President and I are nominating Josh Crow to serve as EOC. I don't think he needs much of an introduction. I'll let him speak for himself in a minute, but just quickly, Josh has been in the organization for coming up on 4 years, which is no easy feat. And he's participated in a lot of elections. And then as you know, the former speaker and also the former president for a bit, he did a lot of support for elections. So he already has a lot of the information that the EOC will need to do. And I think that he would be good for the job, and the president agrees. So Josh, if you would like to speak for yourself.
Yes, Josh, do you accept the nomination?
I do, Mr. Speaker.
Feel free to take a moment to make a statement if you would like.
Yeah, I don't want to waste too much of the body's time. I thank the Chief Justice for his kind words. A little bit about what I hope to do with the job. Obviously, the most important function will be getting us ready to go for the election that's coming up now, but hopefully when those more immediate duties have subsided, I look forward to having conversations with Senate leadership about the apportionment of the Senate and the constituencies we have, and look forward to working with leadership in general on recruitment and retention initiatives that we can push forward. Of course, I'll take any questions that anyone has for more specifics. We'll go back to you.
Thank you, Josh. Are there any questions for the nominee at this time? So feel free to raise your hand, and if the raise hand feature is not working and I don't call on you for an extended amount of time, please feel free to unmute yourself. I see a question from Damani. Feel free to ask.
Thank you, Luis. As many folks here are aware, over the past couple of years, we've had commitment issues with the position of Elections Oversight Commissioner. So my question to the nominee is he committed to seeing this all the way through? And if so, actually, that's it. Are you committed to seeing this all the way through?
With your permission, Mr. Speaker, I think I can answer this quite directly. Yes.
Go right ahead. Go right ahead, Josh.
I thought I said yes.
Oh, sorry.
No worries.
I misunderstood. Lakita.
I just have a question, actually. Is there a difference between the Election Oversight Commissioner and the Outreach Commissioner?
So I can answer that briefly, and then I can yield to the nominee. That was actually changed at the end of last year. There currently is no longer an outreach commissioner. The name was changed to the Elections Oversight Commissioner, and the responsibilities changed a little bit when that happened. It's become a much more narrowed role, focusing much more on elections than it was before. Feel free to add anything if you'd like, Josh.
I think you got it, Mr. Speaker.
Wonderful. Are there any other questions for the nominee? Seeing no questions, is there any discussion on this nominee before we move into a vote? Seeing no discussion. Ethan, feel free to go ahead.
Okay, this is not actually Ethan. This is Will Shad.
Okay, go ahead, Shad.
But I do want to say, I just realized while sitting here that I have succeeded Josh 3 times as Speaker, as President, and as the Senator for West. Where were you, CLAS?
I was both.
Okay, we're just gonna roll over that, which I think is hysterical. But I do just want to say that Josh is, I think, as all of us know, a very, very competent person. And I think the role of EOC is definitely one that needs to be filled by a very competent person. And I'm glad to see that it is finally being that. So excellent pick. And I'm sure Josh is going to do an excellent job.
Thank you, Shad. We will now... Ethan, do you also want to speak, or is this left over from Shad? All right. We'll now move into a vote, seeing as there's no further discussion. Let me... Give me like just one... Okay, I have to do something else to do that. Sorry, 2 seconds. I'm just going to decrease the amount of time the poll's open for to 2 minutes rather than 5, so that we're not stuck waiting here for a long amount of time. So I'm opening the poll now. Please vote. We have yes, no, abstain, and not a senator. If you are not a voting member of the body, choose not a senator. I can verify the results later just to be sure that everyone is voting the way that they should be. So please go ahead, vote now. Seeing as the result of this vote doesn't affect the next line item, we're going to move on to the next line item, and I will announce the results of the poll once 2 minutes have concluded. So our next item is a disbursement of $3,500 for the Student Services for Rare Disease Day. I'm going to yield the chair to a moment after I briefly explain what this motion is. So the Senate has the authority to allocate money in the budget for each of the committees. But what we're doing here is not that. What we're doing is we're actually dispersing the money. So it's the second level of approval that's normally done by a committee that we were asked to do because Student Services did not meet this week, and they needed to disperse the money before the end of the week. So this isn't, are we approving whether or not the event should happen? Because the Senate has already said yes to that. This is, do we approve spending the money now? To be entirely clear. So with that, I'll yield to the chair of that committee.
So this is Sarah, but I know she texted me to ask if I was okay talking about it.
Go ahead, Sarah.
Cool. So last year, for the first time, we held the in-person Rare Disease Day event, which was really successful at raising awareness for an issue that typically does not get focus. So this would just be to let us do that virtually, and we're still in the process of deciding what the will be used for, which is it's a collaboration sort of between services, development, and diversibility. So definitely it will be put to good use, and that's all I have to say.
Thank you very much, Sarah. Is there any discussion on this motion? Wait, before we move into discussion, let me just clarify the result of the previous vote. In a vote of 24 to 1 to 0 to 12, because that's the not a senator. So yes is 24, no is 1, abstention is 0. And 3 no answers. Congratulations, Josh. You are now the Elections Oversight Commissioner. So we will now move into discussion on the $3,500 disbursement for Rare Disease Day. Are there any points of discussion or questions on this item? Seeing none, I'm going to move to pass this by unanimous consent. Are there any objections? Feel free to raise your hand or unmute yourself if you object to passing this particular item by unanimous consent. Seeing no objections, it is so moved. So congratulations to the Student Services Committee. We have dispersed this amount of money. Next on our agenda, we have a statement denouncing the Capitol riots and white supremacy. So we will move over here to this statement of position, or this piece of legislation. Interesting. I hope you all read this in advance and reviewed the entirety of the agenda, as I said. So now that it's on my screen, I'm going to yield to the authors of this legislation to introduce it.
Cool. I want to talk after I run through it because I'm just going to do the thing that I usually do where I go over it in entirety.
Yeah, that's fine.
Cool, thank you. So I drafted this before leadership released their statement because I was upset, so I made this. And so basically the where clauses are just going over what happened, which was the rally that Trump and his supporters held beforehand, where literally the phrase "fight like hell" was used. And that was after misinformation about the election. And then obviously the mob breaching the Capitol happened, and then the white supremacists being in the Capitol. And then the last whereas clause is just going over a line that we have in like our mission, and how, in case this was not something you thought of, but I would be surprised if it wasn't, that can't be done without students feeling safe, which obviously not the effect at all of those events. So then we just get to the therefores, which is condemning the Capitol riots and calling for accountability, condemning white supremacy, and reaffirming our commitment to empowering and supporting all students of color. And then condemning UConn for just sending out an email and not taking real action, because when these horrible events occur, I'd like to think that would be a moment where we take the opportunity to reflect and think about what we could be doing. So then we go on to calling for the administration to evaluate whether and how it is an accomplice or an active combatant of the white supremacist conditions in which it exists, because we can't ignore the founding of our country and like every institution within it. And then supporting efforts to impeach and convict Trump that are ongoing, supporting holding him and his supporters accountable, and condemning the Capitol Police in how they acted and calling for accountability there, because there were some that were pictured not stopping the rioters but letting them in, which is an issue. So that's all I have to say about it, because that's what we wrote. So I will give it to Darren now.
There's a lot that I could say about the Capitol riots and whatnot, but I'm going to keep it brief for the sake of time. I think that this bill is quite self-explanatory, and I think that the events of or what happened there really need no explanation and whatnot. And I'm going to keep it at we as people that are supposed to inherit this country ought to do better than the people that left it for us. And as a black man, watching it, it didn't necessarily bother me, but more so reaffirm that this country still has a lot of work to do and that it'll never be perfect. And, as leaders in our own right, we can't stand for injustice while, walking around calling ourselves woke, calling ourselves progressive, and pretending to do the work that's necessary. If we truly abide by our sort of principles in USG, then this bill will pass with absolutely no problem. That's all I have to say.
And one last note is the extensive sponsor list. So I'm just saying, think about that too.
Thank you to the authors for writing and presenting this legislation. Are there any points of discussion at this time? Braden.
I just wanted to say thank you to the authors for writing this. It's a sad thing that in our country right now, we even have to do something like condemn white supremacy, but there are certain individuals that choose not to do that. So I just wanted to thank you guys for putting this bill out there.
Thank you, Braden. Are there any other points of discussion or questions for the authors at this time?
I just have a general parliamentary question. Do I have to ask a question to amend if they'd be willing to amend this right now, or should I do that once we go into discussion?
So we're in discussion at the moment. I kind of skipped questions because I forgot how this works and I just came back to it. So we're in discussion. If you have a motion to amend, now would be the time to make that motion.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so I just wanted to thank the authors for writing this as well. And I know I probably should have said something before the meeting started with one of the authors, but I was just wondering if it would be possible to amend just the defund the UCPD part. because I would love to be able to support this this legislation. I just have an issue with those two words there.
Can I answer that?
So we're gonna wait just a moment. What is your exact amendment, Senator?
Just to delete the defunding UCPD. Right
All right.
your mouses.
I understand. So we're okay. I know how we're gonna handle this. Is this amendment taken as friendly?
No.
Okay. We will entertain exactly 3 points of discussion on this, and then we will move immediately into a vote on it. This is not a point that we will belabor. So I will allow the author, one of the authors, to speak first, and then I will allow the motioner to speak, and then one more person if they so choose, and then we will conclude this line of discussion. So if either of the authors, I will only allow one of you just for the sake of time, would like to make a statement, feel free to do so now.
Darren, you good with me making it?
No, I'm fine with that. I'm fine with
Cool. So this point, obviously we've discussed it a lot in USG before, and it's a point that I think we absolutely cannot remove, because when we're taking a position on defunding the police, we cannot suddenly remove that from what we're doing. It's something we have to stay with, and something that we've already discussed why we need it. I won't belabor that point. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Sarah. Chris, since you made the amendment, I will allow you to make a statement on this.
Yeah, I just wanted to say again that I appreciate her writing it, and I agree with basically everything in this except for those two terms. And I think it is possible, like I agree with refunding the CT commitment, but I think it's possible to kind of fund both at the same time without having to defund the UCPD. So yeah, if you could just take those two words out, that would be great. But if not, I understand.
Thank you, Chris. Are there any other points of discussion? I see one from Darren Mack, and that will be the final one. We will then move into a vote.
Luis, can I raise a point of diversity as well? Can we hear from the CDO?
You may. Okay. Before we entertain your speech, Darren, I will entertain the point of diversity and forward that to the Chief Justice. Damani, would you care to weigh in on this particular circumstance?
Yeah. I'm unclear on what's being weighed in on here. The defund UCPD's stance of USG, that's not really up for change whether or not it's included within the legislation. If it's in there, then that's just saying it again. If it's not in there, that doesn't undo our stance. So this is not, regardless of which way this amendment goes, USG's stance on defund UCPD won't be affected by that. I hope that gets to what Ben was asking.
Thank you for the clarification, Damani. We will now move to Darren Mack, and then we will move immediately into a vote. This will be the last speech or motion entertained during this amendment. Go ahead, Darren.
As Damani said before, USG has taken this particular stance before, and I think it's simple. We're calling on UPenn to show significant and meaningful support for students of color. And I can speak as a student of color for a lot of other students of colors in saying that, yeah, we want to see this, particular organization defunded. Personally, I would like to see it abolished, but that's not necessarily relevant here. I can say that the presence of police on campus doesn't necessarily do a lot of good for me or anybody else. And I'm not going to explain why, because, there's a lot of resources that can be looked at in that particular regard. But as a person of color here, I think that the point is strong, and considering the stance that this organization has taken before, I see nothing wrong with it. Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you to all the senators and executive members who weighed in on this discussion. I'm opening the poll at this time. and we will wait the entirety of the 2 minutes as it is essential to the continuing of the legislation. While the vote is in order, please vote along where you're supposed to. If you're not a senator, don't vote. I'll belabor that. I've seen Lakita raise your hand a couple of times. Is this a procedural question, a motion, like anything that we can do while it's going on, or was it a point of discussion?
It's a point of discussion, but also like it's not a motion. It's a point of discussion. Actually, I'll wait till after the voting.
All right, thank you. I'll be sure to call you once the voting is concluded.
Just to clarify, this is on the amendment. So a yes vote is remove defund UCPD, and a no vote is keep it there.
Yes,
correct?
that is a good clarification. So no. So if you vote yes, that is removing the 2 words defunding UCPD. If you vote no, then that is keeping the words defund UCPD in the legislation.
Can we change our vote?
Yes. If it was because of confusion, yes. If it was
Yes,
because of...
I thought we were voting on the actual piece of legislation.
Okay, so Braden, what was your vote, and how would you like to change it?
I accidentally clicked yes because I thought we were voting to pass.
All right, I will make note of that and try to clarify that. Has anyone else made a similar mistake?
Yes. I also voted yes, but I really meant no.
Okay,
And
so we
this
have
is
2 people who
Angel.
voted yes but meant no. Okay, thank you. Both of you say your names for the minutes, please. So Angel and Braden, thank you. Anyone else?
I also accidentally voted yes when I meant to say not a senator.
Okay. Thank you, Damani, for clarifying. So we have another yes that's supposed to be not a senator. Okay.
Would it be possible to just do a new poll?
Or
no?
It
It's fine if
would,
it's no.
but it doesn't seem as if, from what I've heard, it will affect the outcome, if that makes sense. Oh wait, that's for the minutes. Yes. So since we have the outcome, we're gonna do another poll now. So sorry if this is confusing to everyone, but here's my plan from here. The outcome of this is in a vote of 7 to 16 to 4 to 11. This fails. But we're gonna do another poll. Everyone vote the way you meant to vote, knowing now that yes means to defund the police from this legislation, no means to keep defund the police in, abstain means to not vote yes or no, and not a senator for Damani means that you are not a senator. With all that in mind, please vote again. Yeah. Let me see how to do this. Edit now.
Thank you for clarifying that for me, Luis.
You got it, Damani. Always glad to help. But the result of this amendment is no. If we have a different result in this second one, I'm going to be upset. So please don't do that. Just based on the fact that we have 2 votes with 2 different things. This is just for clarity in the minutes. So please vote the way you wanted to. While the vote is going on, we will continue with discussion. Just to be efficient with our time. So are there any points of discussion at this time? Lakita.
Hey, so this is sort of a question to the authors. I was kind of curious as to whether you would and other members of USG as well would be interested in just meeting with ODI about like what you think we can sort of do, because I feel like we've definitely taken stances on issues and like said this is our stance, but we haven't officially met with upper level UConn administration in regards to actually doing something substantial about like, you know, the stances that we've taken. And I think addressing that within this piece of legislation would, you know, it would just show that we're actively like seeking to make the changes at UConn.
I'll speak briefly on that. So I think that theoretically what could be done from here is this legislation could be taken to the people at ODI without explicitly saying it in the legislation. That's just my interpretation, to kind of go and have those discussions afterwards, say this is our stance, hey, Like, what can we do about this? You know, this could be done by the authors or by any interested party, should they so choose to go further this interest on behalf of USG. So I don't think it's necessary to add anything, but if anyone disagrees, that would be a good thing to kind of correct me on before we operate under that point.
Oh, no, it's fine. I was actually just gonna add another thing. I also wasn't sure like if there was an intention of taking it to anyone, so that's why I didn't want to make a motion on anything without asking.
Fair enough. Would either of the authors care to answer the question?
Well, I can and whatnot. This is my personal opinion. I don't necessarily speak for Sarah and everything, but you know, I've seen it time and time again. We bring these sort of things, especially in regard to defunding the police, to the upper level of UConn administration. And quite honestly, this sort of action really just falls to us. I personally don't think that we're going to see any sort of significant or tangible change in that regard. You know, when the movement was at its highest earlier last year, we didn't really see anything get done, and they were pretty firm in their stance. So to go to them again in hopes that they would change their mind is kind of foolish when we could be doing the work ourselves to push for that and whatnot. You know, I would say it in frank terms. You know, going to them would be like me going to the United States Senate and asking them to, you know, give you reparations for, you know, slavery or something like that. It's not going to happen. It's a fool's errand almost. But I think that the work really falls to individuals in this organization, because we have more than, you know, resources and ability to get things done like that. That's all.
Yeah, and just to add that, I hesitated because, well, if someone else has the energy to bring this to ODI and to really advocate for change, like would need to be done, to be effective at all, I would fully support that, but I do not have the energy to do that.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Are there any further points of discussions or any motions before we move into a vote on this legislation? Seeing none, what? Connor Glassel, feel free to go.
Yes, I have a for the authors. Why was why is the language including supporting the impeachment of Donald Trump and his supporters? And is that a stance that USG as an organization representing the whole student body should be taking?
Thank you, thank you, Connor. I'll go to Darren on this one first, since Sarah's led the charge a couple of times.
Well, I'll put it like this. You know, I knew that would get a little bit of flack here and everything like that. But if you look at it this way, he openly instigated it. I'm not even going to get into it because I'm not going to explain the events at the Capitol. You've seen it. You've heard it before. We all know what happened. And I think that what happened was, you know, reprehensible. I think that what happened was ridiculous and not worthy of the office of the President of the United States. So I think a person who is consistently, we all know who Donald Trump is, but a person who is consistently, over the course of these past few years, have openly antagonized, villainized, and done nothing in terms of race relations instead of inflaming them. And now this is a sort of end result that we've seen. I think that this organization has a moral obligation to openly support the impeachment of Donald Trump, considering that there are students of color on this campus who feel unsafe and who have felt unsafe under his presidency, and rightfully so, with the things that he's done. I don't know your political affiliation, nor will I make any assumptions on that, but for a person to consider themselves a true American, I think that supporting Donald Trump and not supporting his impeachment is a shame, a crying shame, actually. That's all I have to say.
Can I add?
Okay, go ahead, Sarah.
Cool. So my response to that question is just that I know people want unity, but we cannot have unity without accountability, and our nation as a whole deserves to see that happen. So yes, we as USG representing all the students on campus should be making that statement and taking that position. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you to both of the authors for commenting. We're going to go to Christine now, and then we'll go to Chris.
Thanks, Luis. I also just wanted to reaffirm what Sarah and Darren stated. I also just wanted to point attention to the USG's Instagram page. As an exec board, we decided to release a statement after the Capitol riots, where we stated that we stand against those who, by action, inaction, and misinformation, incited the attacks, including then President Trump. Just wanted to restate that.
Thank you very much. We will now go to Chris.
So I just want to say that I personally think that the president is responsible for what happened, and I do think he should be held accountable, but I also think that Connor has a point at the same time. Like us, since we are representing all the students at UConn, I don't think it's really right for us to make a statement on behalf of all the students on such a controversial issue. Like, we don't want to ostracize any students who might have a different ideology from us. And so like I would just like to ask the question kind of rhetorically, or anyone could answer. Do you think it would be right for the student government to support a candidate in an election in the future if we can support getting rid of one?
Thank you, Senator. We're going to go to Ethan. Or Shad, whoever it is who wants to speak among the two of them.
It's Ethan, thank you.
Okay.
So USG takes positions that not every student agrees on all the time. I think it'd be hard pressed to find any position that the entirety of the undergraduate student body agrees on. That being said, though, it is of course a dangerous precedent to just take political views. I don't necessarily think it is a political view. It's not a political endorsement. In fact, it's the opposite of that. It is the condemnation of what we perceive to be illegal activity or unethical activity, which USG does all the time when we call out bad practices at UConn, as well as on a national level. So I think USG has every right to be able to say, whether or not anybody will really see this and care, I don't know. I don't think people are looking to USG for this sort of advice, but I think it's well within our right to say that. And if that's what we feel as a body, it's our job to be representing undergraduate students. And if we feel that that is what students are feeling, then we should put it in.
Thank you, Ethan. I'm going to cap the speakers list where it is for this legislation, unless an amendment is proposed. So we're going to go Braden, Lakita, then Darren, and then conclude with this discussion. And if any of you feel as if your point's been made, feel free to take your name off the list. But we'll start with Braden.
So you proposed the question of, would it be okay for us to support a political candidate? And in my view, it would not be okay. But in this case, we're not really supporting or condemning a political candidate. We are, in this case, condemning someone who, in my view, committed a crime and should be held accountable. And that's what we are saying in this piece of legislation, that the Senate should hold him accountable. So I don't think this is as simple as us supporting someone that's running for elected office. This is much different. This is supporting or condemning someone that committed a crime.
Thank you, Braden. Lakita.
I yield my time. My point's been made.
Thank you, Lakita. Darren.
I'll be brief. You made an interesting point in saying that you agree that he should be held accountable. And I won't repeat the same points that were made before. Held accountable in which way? He's president of the United States. These are tools that are made to hold presidents accountable. And as it was said before, we are well in our rights to make this sort of thing happen in terms of making statements like these. I just wonder, what would it say to students of color across campus if we were to stay silent on the issue. And believe me, they've said things about us staying silent on the issue. It's often said that USP is far too safe in taking a stand on things that we try to play both sides of the fence. And I don't think that's really acceptable here. I think that a full condemnation of his reprehensible actions, and this isn't even me speaking politically, this is me speaking as a human being who has a sense of decency. You know, I think that we would be doing the student body a great disservice by not holding him accountable in the way that we can. And I think that the government would be doing a great disservice if they weren't holding Donald Trump accountable in the way they can, which is impeachment. Thank you.
Thank you, Darren. Kevin, I see you raised your hand, and since Lakita yielded her time, I will allow this to be the final speech.
I appreciate that. I'll make it brief. Just to be clear, I personally fully support impeaching the president. I think what he did was heinous and he deserves to be impeached and should never run for office again as a result. However, I just want to say I would prefer to see this clause in its own statement of position after the former president has the chance to present his defense. I have no doubt that nothing will change after he does so, but I would feel much more comfortable as a body saying we've heard all the evidence, we've heard what both sides have to say, and this is how we feel about that in its own statement separate of this. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. The speakers list is capped there. Unless there is an amendment, we are going to move into a vote now. Seeing no amendments, I'm opening the poll. Voting yes here means that you support the legislation. Voting no here means that you do not support the legislation. Abstaining means that you wish to not vote on this matter. Not a senator means that you are not an elected member of the Student Senate and you should not be voting on this.
Damani.
Wait, I'm sorry. Can you repeat which one's yes, which one's no?
So yes means I like this legislation and I think it should pass. No means I do not like this legislation and I think it should fail. Or I disagree with part of the legislation. That's the more fair assessment here. I don't agree with it in its entirety, but I may agree with part. Like I don't want to put words in anyone's mouth.
While we're doing this, can I ask a general question?
Sure, go ahead, Braden.
This is a long way off, as we have seen through this pandemic, but following the pandemic, as life starts to get to return to normal, is the Senate planning on going back to in person, or are we going to be like this for forever? I guess.
I can tell you that we will not be like this in the spring. I'm personally not on campus, and I don't know how I would moderate a meeting when half of the people are in person and half aren't. So I can see what I can do about talking with people on the executive branch about maybe seeing if senators can enter the office on some circumstances. I don't know if that will be allowed, but I can tell you that for the spring semester, I don't think that will happen. Hopefully, whoever the speaker is at the end of this year, because a new speaker will be elected in first/last Senate. Hopefully, conditions will allow Senate to go back to some level of normal in the fall, but no one can be certain given the rate at which circumstances are changing.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to know, like, if that was the eventual plan to go back to in person.
It would be if I was speaker next, but I can't speak for whoever may come after me, if that makes sense. So we have the results of the vote. In a vote of 17 to 3 to 5, this legislation passes. Chris, is this a question or?
Yeah, it's just a general question. So just to clarify, in the future, should we ask to amend the legislation during the question section or the discussion?
Discussion. I'll be more diligent. I apologize for not having a thorough questioning section in this piece of legislation. I'll be sure to do that for the next one. But yes, discussion is where you amend. So let me close out of this. Congratulations to the authors for the passage. I'll be sure to include the vote when I send the recording over. So yes. Next we have the Smart Table Act. that was authored by Ben. So feel free to introduce the legislation, Ben.
Good evening, guys, gals, and non-binary pals of the Undergraduate Student Senate. We are gathered here today to speak on this and to discuss this truly important matter. And the SMART Table Act, which stands for Senate Meetings Are Really Tiring, Take a Break for Leg Extension, was inspired by some of the Senates that we had towards the end of last year or last semester, which, if you remember correctly, sometimes pushed on 4 hours with no breaks. And those were really tiring. And, you know, long meetings, they make you hangry. And we've seen the attempts to prepare food while in Senate meetings often end catastrophically. And so this is really just meant to provide us a break. You can peruse these whereas clauses at your leisure, but there is essentially one operative clause in the entire legislation, and it's this: therefore be it resolved that if at any point the Senate has had more than 2 hours without a break, the chair should call a recess ASAP. That's pretty much it, and it's designed in such a way that if we ever have, say, a 4-hour Senate, we'll get at least 2 breaks. And if we ever have a 6-hour Senate, A, I'm resigning, and B, we'll have 3 breaks. And so it's really just a way to break up Senate to let us stretch our legs a little bit, especially since we're no longer in person and we're not, you know, we can't just kind of get up and like we have to be in front of our cameras and stuff. This is just to break it up a little bit. I'd also like everyone to know that there was originally a second operative clause that said that the enforcement mechanism of this legislation would be public shaming of the chair. At request of Senate leadership, I have been asked to remove that because we don't want USG, you know, in any sort of text publicly endorsing the public shaming of everyone. However, I'd like it to be known that I still intend to hold the chair, whoever it may be, to that standard. Are there any questions?
All right. Are there any questions for Senator Keelty here? Seeing none, are there any points of discussion on this legislation? We'll go to Damani and then Lakita.
So this might have this might have been a question, but I'm not sure if it's necessarily for the author. It's just a question about the sponsors list. Someone appears to have anointed themselves USG's official dog petting champion, and I do not recall a competition to determine that, nor do I recall any piece of legislation that would have awarded that title to anyone. So if that could just be elaborated on, I would appreciate it.
We'll go to Lakita and then to Sarah Hill for a clarification on that.
Go to Sarah because I have a point of discussion or a motion to make.
Okay, Sarah, go ahead.
So I will open with please don't take that away from me. That is the closest I have gotten to being USG's official dog petter. If you are not in caucus or in Senate with us when the pandemic started and we were all sent home, I was very obsessed with dogs and Hamilton, and in the process of drafting legislation to make a dog Senate. So I think we don't even need to hold a competition to know that should be my title. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Senator Hill. We'll go to Lakita's point of discussion.
Okay, before I make the motion, I think I support Sarah in her thing because, right, the amount of pics she's put on GroupMe with Snickers is amazing, and you guys, she should just have it right there. But my point of motion is to change it from 2 hours to 90 minutes because even 2 hours is too long.
Is that taken as friendly by the author?
Sure. I mean, Luis, you've expressed your intention, regardless of this legislation, to be much more liberal in using
Yeah,
usually
no, no.
recesses.
Whether or not this passes, I'm going to be calling recesses of the Student Senate on a much more frequent basis because I think that they're a very productive tool to use during the compromise section of heated debate on the floor. So I hope to use them more liberally by default. So 2 hour, 90 minute. I actually setting a timer before this thing for 90 minutes, so 90 minutes works for me.
Perfect. It's taken as friendly, and I'll make the change.
Okay, perfect. So now instead of 2 hours every 90 minutes, we will have at least one recess. We'll go to Ethan and then Noah, and then we'll move into a vote on this.
Okay, once again, this is not Ethan. This is Will Shad.
I've always guessed wrong.
It's whatever. I want to make the point that while I was speaker and then president, I actually did appoint Sarah to that position. I think Damani should remember that, as I'm pretty sure he probably wrote it, but I do remember very specifically appointing Sarah to that position. So unless the current president has revoked that appointment, I think she does still hold the office.
Thank you for the clarification, President Shad.
Forgive me for my memory lapses recently. I've had a struggle with a lot of things tonight, so that's probably what it is.
Noah, feel free to go ahead.
I'll be very brief. On top of another commendation of our wonderful dog petting champion, this legislation is the best of the best. It's lighthearted and it's effective.
All right. We're gonna move to pass this by unanimous consent. Does anyone object to me calling a break every 90 minutes? What one note I will add is that I may violate this legislation if we are on like the last thing and we're so close to being done. Like, but if we still have like a piece or two left to go and like a long discussion ahead of us, I will definitely be doing this. So that's just kind of a quick note. And a heads up for everyone, we will be having breaks during Senate because they're long, and I know no one likes to sit in front of their computer screen for 4 hours listening to all of us talk. So, with that, is there any abstentions? Not abstentions, objections. Braden, is that an objection?
No, that's a question. Sorry, real quick. How long would the break be? Because like I don't really want to take a half an hour break. That's just going to make this whole
At
process
least
take longer.
probably like between 2 to 5 minutes, depending on like what's going on.
Oh, okay. Never mind.
Yeah, so it's not going to be like, oh, we're going to go take an hour break, then come back. No, it's nothing that ridiculous. It would be a quick little like, go get some water, walk around, stretch your legs, like maybe chatter in the meeting. Nothing all that big. All right. Seeing no objections, we're going to consider this passed. Congratulations to the author and all of the sponsors with their wonderful titles. We will now move into a resolution concerning declaring racism a public health crisis in the state of Connecticut. I will now yield to the author of this legislation to introduce it.
Okay, howdy folks. Hope that everybody's doing well. So attached is the resolution concerning declaring racism a public health crisis in the state of Connecticut. I don't think that we can tell the story of this piece of legislation without commending the work of Michael Christie in particular, but also with the wonderful Power Up organization that we have not only here at UConn, but throughout the state. Power Up is, on top of just being an incredibly effective organization, they've brought a lot of issues to light in the wake of George Floyd's death, and I'm proud to have protested with them last year. They brought this to us in an effort to work with USG on a way to solidify our position on this issue. Myself, Chief Diversity Officer Douglas, and President Hernandez met with Michael as well as B. Diaz of UCO to discuss how we wanted to implement this legislation. So this really was a team effort. And I'm proud of what came out because I really think that in this piece of legislation, we highlight the fact that that structural inequities impact our communities in more ways than we might expect. Whether that's through development, whether that's through environmental injustices, the different treatments that we give our communities have been exacerbated during the time of COVID-19. So I think that it's incredibly important that we do 4 things, and that's exactly what we intend to do with these therefore be it resolved clauses. So first, the United States, the undergraduate student government, yeah, right. The undergraduate student government supports power up leadership across the state in their efforts to address these multifaceted issues. Number two, we encourage the continuation of statewide conversations on specifically public health inequities highlighted during the COVID-19 pandemic. Third, that we want to see movement on this issue by leadership of the Connecticut General Assembly. That is intentionally vague because I believe that this covers a number of disciplines. So what comes to mind, the Environment Committee, Public Health Committee, Public Safety Committee. And then lastly, we call on executive officials who have implemented emergency powers to invoke the same statewide designation of this incredibly present issue upon our times now, so that we can help policy get made. You know, the real point of this, I think, is to ensure that these conversations are being had within the state, and due recognition of this for the public health crisis that it is honestly a no-brainer in terms of advancing policy. It's going to make our jobs here at USG with our external affairs and our new student connection statewide lobbying subcommittee. It's going to make our work a fair amount easier to know that we have the backing of not only the student body, but eventually the state.
Thank you, Noah, for this wonderful piece of legislation and your well done presentation of it. Senator Keelty, is this a question for Noah? Because we're now in the question section of discussion.
It is. So Noah, first of all, awesome work. But what, in other words, what would this do? What would it allow either UConn or the state government or someone else to do if racism was declared a public health crisis?
So I'll start, and then if Michael's on the call, of course, Michael, I would love for you to jump in too. So I think where it really starts for us is I'm looking at a similar justification that I base this off of by Health Equity Solutions, which has also put a statewide petition calling for this. I believe right now it's actually up from 15. As this legislation says, it's now 20 towns have signed on to this, declaring racism a public health crisis within their municipality. To the point that I made before, Ben, I think that that's actually a very good question. And the deliverable is, we need to name the problem, right? We see this is going on, but it's been alluded to. It's not been given a specific mention. I would like to see coming out of this everything from a specific legislative task force devoted to understanding how inequities impact public health, but also real meaningful legislation to make it easier for those BIPOC communities to gain access to the resources that they need. It's really, for me, the recognition of that and the commitment from the state to make sure that they're holding up their end of the bargain. So, Michael, of course, I'd love for you to give some more details on that, but that's where I see this as a real pragmatic use.
Yeah. Thank you, Noah. Michael, feel free to add anything you'd like.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, Michael Christie, not Michael Hernandez. I apologize.
sorry, friends. Yes, Michael Christie.
Yeah, I think the most important thing that this does is help us identify the racist foundation of policies within different aspects of our society, because within all aspects, within education, housing and development, health and administration, there are so many, racist foundation of policies that exist that oppress, Black, Indigenous, and people of color, and don't really allow, us to succeed. And allowing us to address this as a public health crisis the way we address, any other public health crisis, allows us to really just contribute to a better lifestyle for these Black, Indigenous, and people of color who deserve it and need it.
Thank you, Michael. Now on to President Hernandez. I apologize for the confusion there.
Sorry about
this is the question section, by the way. So is this a question, Mike?
It is not, so I will wait for discussion.
Wonderful, wonderful. Are there any other? I can't speak anymore. Are there any further questions before we move to discussion? Seeing none, we'll go to you first, Mike.
Very much. And wanted to sort of reinforce Noah's about this from a policy perspective. When the government or other entities want to trigger action to address broad issues like racism or other forms of public health crises, this is what they do. They'll issue a state of emergency or some other proclamation. So this is what we're trying to do. We're trying to make a proclamation in order to, trigger a response. And you have all these really clear statistics in the legislation. So, in short, I just want to say that this is a very clear piece of legislation, and it's something that I support. Thank you, Luis.
Of course, of course. Mitch.
Hey guys, I hope everyone's having a great night. My Wi-Fi is kind of acting kind of weird, so I apologize if this doesn't come through as well as I would like. Kind of a similar thing, backing everything that Noah said and Mike said, but obviously this type of legislation is far overdue. Racism has always been a crisis here in the United States, and I think it's fair that I almost pulled it out. I almost said the United States, the USG decides to declare this as a health crisis in the state of Connecticut, and with my new subcommittee as the state affairs coordinator with the USG, this is definitely one of the issues we're going to be trying to tackle at the state capitol, and with the legislature, with the governor, whoever we can work with, and I think it's going to help those legislative efforts, our collective legislative efforts, and really being able to say that, yeah, hey, the USG, the student government of UConn, the undergraduate student government, has declared racism a public health crisis, really helps put pressure on legislators with whatever sorts of upcoming legislation is happening at the Capitol. It's always a good thing to be able to say that, to know that, hey, that looks like UConn is or the students are behind that. And I think that's definitely it would be a huge help with my types of efforts and the subcommittee's efforts and everything, all of us moving forward and trying to make Connecticut a better place for us all. So thank you.
Thank you, Mitch. Ben.
Yeah, I also just really want to voice my strong support. I got, some awesome answers to my question, but I think even regardless of what it does functionally from a policy standpoint, I think that this is an important realization or an important affirmation that words matter, and that what we say and what we do are, in some cases really equally important in that way. And honestly, just giving this, elevating it to the level of calling it a public health crisis, I think is important, because we hear this rhetoric all the time of how racism affects public health, and it absolutely does. And, I don't want to French fry or anything, so I'll keep this brief. But, we hear all this rhetoric all the time, and turning it into policy, I think, is really, really important. And so that's why I really support this.
Thank you. Once again, I'm going to encourage everyone that if the point's been made, please don't belabor it. I think that we generally seem to be on the same page, and with that, I'll go back to Noah.
I just want to say super quick that Ben, I actually want to say thank you for that question. I think it's really important that we highlight the deliverables as well as going over the concepts. And just again, it was just such a pleasure to work on this. I look forward to seeing more legislation come through this collaborative pipeline in the future.
Wonderful. Thank you, Noah. We'll go to Damani, and then we'll move into a vote.
Apologies in advance because I am going to French fry. But I'm going to echo what Noah just said. It was a pleasure to work with Michael on this and Noah to put this together. I look forward to working on more legislation like this in a similar fashion through groups like Power Up. So, yeah.
Thank you, Damani. With that, we're going to move into a vote on this one. We're going to vote on this rather than unanimous consent. So I'm opening it now. For clarity, this is not an amendment, so yes means that you support the legislation as it is and you want it to pass. No means that you do not want the legislation to pass for whatever reason you may have. Abstaining means that you are rather indifferent and you don't care to cast a vote on this particular matter. And not a senator means that you were not elected to the Student Senate. So please click the appropriate box for whatever you believe, and then we will move on in 1 minute and 28 seconds. Well done on writing it, by the way, everyone. I think it's really well done. I don't often weigh in, but I feel like I will this time. I think that the turnaround on this was great, and I think it's a really well-written piece. We still have 5 who have yet to answer. So if you're here and you're listening, and you haven't submitted the poll, please do so, and we can move on. All right. I don't think that the 4 votes that are outstanding will affect the result. So as of now, and I'll have the definitive numbers for later. In a vote of 19 to 0, this passes. So congratulations to the authors and all that business. I will announce the official score in 20 seconds after the next announcement. So we will now move into discussion, actually. I had nothing to bring to discussion. Does anyone have any points of discussion they would like to bring forward? Noah.
Okay, I'll keep this really brief because this is not USG related. I don't typically follow the stock market a lot. However, I don't know if anybody has seen what happened today. It's worth talking about. A bunch of people on Reddit are standing up to Wall Street speculation bettors. Look up GameStop stock price. Wall Street bettors were betting against GameStop for their growth, and it's completely backfired because a ton of people who gave small donations have ballooned GameStop's share price from like $20 this morning to like $320 tonight. And I think that it's very funny, and you should all be warned. And this is not insider trading because I heard this on the news. You should all be warned that Redditors are going after BlackBerry and AMC theaters next. And that's my discussion point.
It's very interesting, and I'm glad you brought that up, Noah. I'm going to speak on that briefly before I move on. I've been reading into this a little bit, and they made it to the point where now they have like actual investment firms. They tricked them into thinking that it was like a very good thing to do. And it's not unfounded. GameStop has done a lot recently to improve their position. They bought a lot of their debt back, and they've actually solved lots of their problems. But it's massively overpriced, so that is a very interesting thing to bring up.
Agreed.
Chris.
Yeah, Mitch, if you have something to say about GameStop, you can go first.
How did you know? Wait, how did you know?
I looked online and I saw that GameStop was trending. I was like, why is GameStop like the last time I was at GameStop, I bought I bought some games 10 years ago. I was like 9 years old, and yeah, I guess they're just through the roof, man.
No. I know about that. How did Chris know I was on the? Oh, I forgot. It shows your hands already. Anyway.
I just saw your hand go up as soon as Noah mentioned GameStop.
So we'll finish this line of discussion with Mitch. Mitch, if you have something to say on this, go ahead.
I did throw in some money with the AMC crowd. I put in like $100 this morning when the stock market opened up, and so it's been raising a little bit. Right now, I'm at like $50 profit, but not too. I mean, that's better than nothing, but it is very interesting to see what's happening. I was looking around on like Reddit and like Discords and stuff, and people are kind of just like, the general feeling is at first it was to make a profit, and now it's kind of just to be like kind of an FU to Wall Street and all of these investment brokers and everything, and how kind of taking the financial investments back to the people and kind of diversifying the wealth, which is very interesting. It's a very different tactic than anything I ever imagined, but it's been unique to follow from a political perspective. And then I kind of got hyped, and then I put a little bit of money into it. So
power to the people. Well, hey, you'll have 10K tomorrow, so no worries.
There you go. There you go. All right. Thank you for the great line of discussion. I actually really enjoyed that topic. We'll move on to Chris now. I think he had something else.
Yeah, so I think someone brought this up at the last meeting or caucus, and I was just curious if there's been an update on USG social media page posting an opinion of the body without consultation with us.
So are you discussing the statement that was made on behalf of leadership, the statement denouncing the Capitol riots and white supremacy? Like the equivalent
not
that
just that, the one condemning Trump, like that one.
Okay.
And it but
Okay, I'll yield to the chief diversity officer on this.
Okay.
So it's two things. The first is I want to make a correction to something that has been said a couple times throughout the meeting. That the message was posted on behalf of leadership. The message was posted on behalf of USG. There are folks like the Senate as a whole, but also the president, the comptroller, myself, and the vice president on our own can speak for the entire org. That's a result of our elections of the student body at large and the positions that we hold. So that statement and any other statements you see that are signed by USG are on behalf of USG, unless they're signed with someone's name at the bottom. In which case, it would be safe to assume that it is that person from that position. As far as the policy for when and how statements are crafted, we had a conversation about this not too long ago. Statements are generally crafted by one of the myself or the president in conjunction with public relations, and that's dependent on what the subject matter is. So for the most recent one that went up on the Instagram, that was me in conjunction with Christine, Kylie, and Michael to put that one together.
All right, thank you. Thank you for the clarification. I agreed with the statements. I just wanted to see if there was a process in place. So thank you for clarifying.
Thank you for the point of discussion there. Mitch, is this a new point of discussion, or is it the hand from the old one?
Sorry.
No worries. Just wanting to be sure you didn't have something else to add to discussion. All right. That's going to conclude discussion for today. Feel free that when you send legislation before Monday night, to also send me points of discussion for the Senate. If you have any that you'd like to have on the agenda in advance. Sometimes when we have other points, we'll move through it faster. What now, Mitch? Sorry that was way
Actually,
too.
quick point of inquiry. So
go for it.
The ideal time to propose new legislation would be at caucus in the upcoming week, correct?
Yes, that would be ideal. I can kind of speak on this briefly. I'd like to see a system where if you have your legislation ready, when caucus is there with the proper sponsorship and everything, I'd like to start seeing legislation presented at the end of caucus so everyone knows it's there, and then we'll vote on it at the next meeting of the Senate. Of course, if it's ready between caucus and Monday night before Senate, then it can't come to caucus. But I would like to start seeing that. Just to kind of have everyone be able to think about legislation for a little bit longer and know what's in it before we vote on it. You know what I mean? So that will be part of caucus from now on. But yes, as long as you have the proper sponsorship, it doesn't have to go to caucus. I would just like it to. That's not a requirement I'm making. We'll now move into announcements. So we have an announcement from Spin. So feel free to make this announcement. It's about Spin. It's from Gaston. So go ahead.
Hello, thank you. So basically to to wrap it up real and to summarize it really quickly, I know there's probably going to be like a lot of questions on this, but right now I just don't want to like take too much time right now. But we're going to have an informal transportation and recreation subcommittee meeting tomorrow at 6 p.m. I'll have the email sent out so you guys can like email me back and I can get you on the email list. So if you have any questions, that's the perfect time to do it. But right now I'm just here to announce that SPIN is a company that partners with universities to bring micromobility to their campuses. So basically like e-scooters and e-bikes and like the charging stations. You might have seen those around. You could click on the photo of it. So basically, oh, here's a video. I think, can we play it forever? Yeah, I'll just let the video explain. Is there audio?
I don't know how to make the audio work, if I'm going to be honest with you.
Okay, that's fine. But you can see like the visuals. But yeah, basically this is Texas Tech. They already installed everything there for free. So they're e-scooters, they're electric scooters, and they can like ride around on it. You just need to pay like $1 to unlock it. They want to bring it to UConn. They agreed to pay for the installation cost, marketing, everything basically. And right now we're creating a map of all the spin hubs where we want them to be placed. Basically me and working with the Student Services Committee. That's the map right there. But of course, we don't represent all students. So we are looking for the students, the USG senators, to ask their constituents in their residential building for where exactly they want their spin hub to be. Because approximately, as you can see on this map, there's going to be about one spin hub per building. For some buildings that are like right next to each other, obviously, they're going to share a spin hub. We have 29 spin hubs total given. They told us 20 and we went overboard, but they were okay with it. I don't think we should go any more than 29 though. I feel like they won't be okay with that. But yeah, so we have a Google form that's listed here. We're going to send it out to every single USG senator, and we're going to ask that you guys get in contact with the TAs in your residential building for them to send it out, post on your social media, send it to your friends, get as many people as possible to fill out this form asking exactly where they want a spin hub near their building. So it's going to ask, like, the instructions are already going to be on the Google form, but it's going to be like specific instructions like, oh, I want the spin hub to be like north of the bus stop right outside blank building, something like that. Basically the Google form, you're going to like create your own Google form. You're just going to like copy paste, but you're just going to like type in the name of your residential building that you represent, and also any other message that you want to put in. And basically the senator with the most responses at the next Senate meeting, USG Senate meeting, will get like a vote of extreme confidence from the Senate, and they'll be like the winner basically. So yeah, that's that. If there's any questions specifically about that, please go ahead.
Yeah, so to clarify a little bit, I encourage all of you to reach out to your constituencies, whether they're academic, residential, or otherwise, to see what they have to say. In order to be elected, everyone had to get, I think it was 50 signatures, 10 of them from your constituency. So you know at least 10 people. Reach out to them, find out where they would want a scooter hub on this map, or a spin hub, I think that's what it's actually called. And yeah, so see where they'd like them. And be sure to fill out the form. I'll be sending out that at the conclusion of this meeting, along with more information about internal affairs. If you have more questions, please go to Gaston's subcommittee. So yes, that is SPIN. I encourage all of you to use this as an opportunity to get in contact with your constituents. So, woohoo! I don't think we do questions with announcements. So yes, if you have questions, please contact Gaston. I'll be sure to provide his email in my later email today, so that you can all reach out to him if you have further questions. The next announcement we have is that Internal Affairs, as I said in my announcement, will be meeting tomorrow. Please, if you are at all interested in Internal Affairs or want to know what's going to be going on in that committee, reach out to Irene. preferably by the end of this meeting. You can email her. You can email internalaffairs@usg.uconn.edu. You can send her a message on GroupMe. But if listserv, just an email list. In announcements PowerPoint. So if you want to go and you're not on the email list, that is the way to go. I also hope to get this up on the web. So all of these links will be on the website. As another quick note, all of the links for Senate, Senate's link will work every other Wednesday on Senate. Caucus's link will work the same. So there's not going to be a different link. There's just a different link for Senate and caucus. You can put them in your calendar. You can use them however you want. Just be aware that all of the links that I'm going to be sending out and that Senate leadership will be using will be recurring links. Just be aware of that going forward if you wanted to keep them. But I will also be sending them out as I normally do, so you can take them from my email in the given week. That's the announcement I have on that. I see Damani has his hand up, so I assume that's an announcement.
It's I have one hand, but it's three announcements.
Go for it.
The first is that CSI has now set a meeting time. It is in my report, but it will be 7 p.m. every other Monday, corresponding with the week of caucus. So the first one is going to be, or the first one back will be next week, then a week off, then a week on. So that's announcement number one. Announcement number two, and there will be a follow-up email from me on this, is the Diversity and Outreach Commission will be meeting on Wednesdays on the same day as Senate, earlier in the day, not at the same time. And that time is yet to be determined. Finally, the third announcement is tangentially related, but RHA is having their elections. So if you are someone who lives on campus, particularly if you're someone who lives in Hilltop Apartments, but anywhere on campus for sure, be sure to look through your email. You should have received a link to the voting form on from your hall director. So be sure to participate in advocacy at that level as well. And good luck to anyone if anyone here happens to be running for any of those positions.
Thank you. Are there any further announcements? Christine.
Quickly, I mentioned this in my reports, but the Justice Now initiative is kickstarting next Monday with the lovely, amazing Angela Davis, which is going to be moderated by the awesome Mason Holland. So please be sure to check that out. You can stream it by going to usg.uconn.edu, our website, and it'll be streaming at 7 p.m. live. So check it out and spread the word, and also submit questions.
Thank you, Christine. I hope all of you do that. Any further announcements? Seeing none, we will call to a close at 7:55 p.m. 4 minutes short of having to call a recess. So for that, congratulations, everyone. I hope you have a pleasant week. Feel free to go now. I'll see you all next week for caucus, and earlier if you care to come to internal tomorrow or Senate leadership on Monday. So have a nice week.
Hi, Mr. Speaker, my name's Allison Cross. I'm covering this meeting for the Daily Campus. I was just wondering if you could give me, I didn't catch like the final vote for the racism public health crisis, what the final numbers were for that vote.
Okay. So this one, a public health crisis.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure it was like 19-0 but let me double check.
Okay, that's what I had before, but then the numbers weren't adding up for like the first vote that everyone did.
So very often I find that people actually leave Senate halfway through, and I have no way to notate that during like the meeting, if that makes sense. So it's possible that people came or left or chose not to vote. So
okay, thank you so much.
All right, of course, of course. Have a nice night.
You too. Bye.
Bye. I'll be here if anyone has any other questions for the next 5 minutes or so. Let me turn off the recording and all that.